want to get in the intro.
Okay, you want to be in the intro,
I want to
Tony?
get in the intro.
This is going to be the cold open, Tony. We'll put this in as the cold open. Introducing Tony! Hey! Okay, this one's for you, Tony. Hello and welcome to Running on Cape Cod, Massachusetts and beyond. I'm Juliana, your host. Hello friends, welcome back. This week I am excited because I have someone who just came in second place for the Seagull 6 here in town, which is very exciting because that's a very highly competitive race, even though it's not very big. I feel like it's probably the most competitive race. Like if we take the Falmouth Road race where we have like literal Olympians showing up to the starting line, I feel like it's the most competitive race in the Falmouth area all year. But Colette Kelly.
Yes.
Welcome, Colette.
Thank you.
Very excited to have you here today. We're going to be able to talk about like your running history, and also something that I think is really important is running as part of the queer community, which is definitely something that I feel like is newer to the running scene, like talking about it and taking action on it. Which it shouldn't be that way, but it is. So I think this will be an exciting conversation to have.
Yeah.
So very excited to have you, Colette.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So let's start off with just figuring out where does the Colette running origin story start? Like, what did you run in high school? Did you not? Like, where'd you start running, and how to get you here?
Yeah. So I started running when I was around 13, just with my mom. I grew up in rural Vermont.
Okay.
And we lived in a house that backed up to a whole bunch of forested land. It wasn't our land, but we were kind of backed up to like 400 acres of forest, and there were all these mountain bike trails. So my mom and I would go running on these mountain bike trails every day.
That's so fun.
So that's really, I credit her with like my beginnings in running. And I also did a lot of competitive cross-country ski racing as a kid and in high school. And so I would do, once I started getting serious about that, I would do a lot of running to cross-train for that. But my other thing was dancing. So I did a lot of modern dance and ballet.
I'm so jealous. If you went back to like 4-year-old Juliana, I would tell you to be a ballerina.
Yeah. Well, it turns out I'm not really built to be a ballerina in that like I'm not very flexible. I don't have, a lot of turnout or whatever, but I was very passionate about it. So I worked really hard. And I majored in dance in college.
Okay. A fellow I was an almost art-ish major in college.
Okay,
but
cool.
A fellow artsy-fartsy person.
Yeah, so I had the cross-country skiing thing, but in college I really focused on dance, and I was like dancing sometimes like 8 hours a day in college, so no time for running or other sports. And then I went to grad school for oceanography.
What was how did you go from dance to oceanography? That doesn't seem like a linear movement to me, but I could be really mistaken.
Well, I was a dance environmental science double major in college.
Oh, okay, that makes a little bit more sense.
So when I wasn't in the dance studio, I was in lab. And
you're crazy. That's like as we talked about earlier, my degree is in nutrition, which is a science-based degree. Like I took all the organic chemistry, biochem, and all those things like that. But I didn't have a minor. I didn't have a double major or anything, and that was enough for me. Yeah. That was still a lot of work.
Yeah, it gives you maybe a little bit of an insight into my personality, but I really thrive off of, having a lot to do, I guess. So anyway, double majored in environmental science, came down here for C semester in college. I did study abroad, and then I was a summer intern at Hui, and that kind of led me into the oceanography track. Went to grad school, kept dancing in grad school as much as I could, and then the pandemic happened.
Oh, yeah.
And all of my dance classes went away, all of my opportunities to dance. And there were Zoom dance classes, but for me, and this is true of dance and also true of running, the appeal is really going into the space and being with people and doing it with people.
Yeah, dance is such like an emotional thing too, and it's art.
Yeah.
Not that running isn't art too in some capacity, but I get what you're saying from like I'm not a talented dancer in any capacity, but I feel like when I'm singing, it's kind of the same thing. And like I'm like we talked about earlier, really big into musical theater.
Yeah.
And you can perform songs from musical theater by yourself, but to perform those in front of an audience, that's a nice time, and that's a whole different vibe.
Yeah,
it's not even close.
Yeah, there's a certain there's a certain elation to it, right? Yeah, exactly, something like that.
You just like you get the energy from the audience, and it's just electrifying.
Yeah, and I really loved performing.
I want to go sing a Broadway song on a stage now.
Right. Yeah.
Sing that song from the Phantom of the Opera. And just like be out on the stage.
Yeah. And also just being like doing like tech week and just being in like the dark theater all week. Like this is actually kind of evocative.
And just like being with like your family, like the same people.
Right. Yeah.
Like, you get so close to the people that you work with in any kind of theatrical production, be it dance, like theater, singing, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You just like those are your people.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I did a lot of dance in college. I didn't go to a conservatory program, but I went to pretty much as close as you would get to a conservative while still doing more of like an academic, I guess, degree. And danced a little bit in grad school. And then, pandemic, in-person dance classes went away. And I was in the Bay Area in California at the time.
Oh.
And that's when I rediscovered running because I was going crazy in my house alone. And so I would go out to there are these incredible open space preserves all around the San Francisco Bay Area. And I would just go running for hours.
That sounds nice.
And did a lot of trail running. And that was kind of my like road back to running. And then, the pandemic lockdowns eventually kind of stopped and dance sort of became an option again. But at that point I was like
too deep into running at this point.
Yeah. And, but it wasn't really until I got here to Falmouth for my job that I have now, that I discovered like speed workouts and track and like the next kind of level of training. Like up until that point I had been doing a lot of running, but not necessarily like running workouts.
Yeah, or like planned, like super regimented or regimented at all, I assume, like running, just kind of like being like, I'm going to go run some miles today.
Right. And when I was training, I did a couple marathons during that time. And when I was training, I was trying to hit mileage goals, but I didn't really have a sense of like speed work, tempo runs, track workouts or whatever.
Yeah.
So I really just discovered that in like the last, I guess, year and like a half maybe, since I started going to the FRC workouts.
Yeah, Dan is great. Dan and Meg, you're awesome.
Yeah.
They're going to be on the podcast here at some point too. They lead the Falmouth Running Club workouts that happen now, I think on Mondays.
Monday, Wednesday.
And I think it's just Monday and Wednesday right now.
Yeah.
We're like there was like a Tuesday morning, I think I feel like at some point too. There was something, but those are the regular two right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like you kind of, not the exact same experience as I had, but a similar experience and similar to a couple of other people I know who have moved from other places to Falmouth, is you kind of unlock a whole new level of running.
Yeah, completely.
Like I remember when I moved down here, I started doing, haven't really kept up with my speed work as much, but some of that is actual physical limitations that my hip has been giving me, so we have a little bit of an excuse. And I'm not training for speed right now. I'm training for a 30-mile ultra, so we're fine on that. But like, I moved down here and I was like, oh, like I can do, like people do speed work. I was like, wait, people like do, like there are names for these workouts? And then I was like, oh yeah, there are different shoes that I can wear.
Right.
And then I discovered like people recommend like gear or fuel or whatever to me. And I was like, wow, I feel like I'm unlocking all these new levels that I didn't know existed. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So that was kind of my experience as well. Just getting here and like getting exposed to that. And and so in the last year and a bit, like I would say I've gotten a lot faster just from like going to those tempo workouts and the track workouts, and then And then also doing the Friday night 5 miler. And just,
which is supposed to be a casual run, but definitely never is.
Yeah, that always turns into a tempo workout for me as well, because I'm just like too jazzed and then I can't run slowly. And,
You just get too excited.
Yeah.
I feel like you're kind of like, from what you've been telling me and what I know of you, you're kind of that performer like I am too, where like,
for sure,
if the audience gives you more energy, you'll take it and you run with, like, physically run with it, or like whatever you're doing, dance with it, sing with it, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I know when I ran the New York City Marathon, I have never felt like more high in my life.
Oh my God, yeah.
Because I had an audience the entire way, and everyone was screaming for me the whole way.
Yeah.
Except for that one little part where you go through the Jewish community when they don't come out on Sundays. It's kind of quiet there, but and the Verrazano Bridge. But that's only like 2 miles out of the entire 26.2 miles that you're going. And it's just like wall to wall people the whole rest of the way. I finished and I was like, we're going again, right, guys? Right?
Yeah.
So that was a fun time.
You know, I've actually never run one of the marathon majors, but I would love to, for that reason, just the energy from the crowds.
Yeah, I mean, ranking the World Marathon Majors in level of the ones that I've done so far, from least to most energy, like Boston's definitely the least energy.
Right.
Those first 13 miles, you barely see anyone.
Yeah.
And there's barely any energy. Then I would throw Tokyo in there. It's a different energy, but it's definitely supportive, but it's not like screaming. Then we throw in Chicago, and then New York is definitely up top.
Yeah.
So
I didn't run New York City, but I watched my sister run the New York City Marathon. And that was also, as a spectator, super fun. So we stayed with my brother lives in Brooklyn. We stayed with him, and we went to go see her at mile 8 in Brooklyn. And then we took the subway uptown to go see her at mile 18. What I didn't bank on was the fact that everybody else would also be doing the same thing. So the trains were packed. So we couldn't get the first train that came, we couldn't get on. And then I was freaking out because I was like, she's actually going really fast. Like, we're going to have to like really book it. And we make it onto the next train. And I'm with my mom and my brother. And then we like sprint up the subway steps. And I'm like elbowing my way past people to be like, I'm sorry, but I really have to see my sister.
Yeah.
And she had entrusted us with her carbohydrate drink.
Oh no.
Which was such a gamble.
Yeah.
Like, I would never do that. I'm way too type A for that. But
I would never do that.
She's very chill in that way. And she actually like had her phone on her and she called us from the course. She's like, hey, just making sure, like, what side of the road are you on? And I was like, oh, we're gonna be on the left side. She's like, perfect. Then she accidentally runs past us. And I'm like, Jojo! Turns around, comes back, and we're like all sweaty from like having like sprinted to catch her at like mile 18.
Wow.
Gave her the carbohydrate drink and then just walked across and saw her come back on mile 23.
Yeah, because that's kind of when you enter the park, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you do a bunch of you go through the park a lot longer than you think you're going to be in there.
Yeah.
Because you can almost kind of see the finish line when you enter the park.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a mind fuck, to be honest. But
I bet. Yeah. So I got some of the experience just from like being part of the crowd, but I'd really love to run it at some point.
I think you'd have a great time.
Yeah.
I highly recommend running with Team for Kids too, which is a charity that I run with.
Okay.
For New York. Because they're the premier charity for the New York New York Marathon. So you get VIP treatment. It's very cushy.
Cool.
So
I'm also, if I can shave like 2 or 3 minutes off of my time, I can qualify. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you qualify for Boston with your last marathon?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, I ran a 3:15, so I think I'm comfortably below the standard.
It's 3:25.
It's 3:25 right now.
Yeah. So that sounds like you're probably going to get in for 2027, correct? Or
2026, I think.
2026.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Unless they lower it by 10 minutes, which would be crazy.
Honestly, I wouldn't put it past them at this point. I'm wearing a Boston Marathon shirt, but I just wore it because it was seasonal, more or less.
Yeah.
And anyone who's watched this podcast before, I don't like the Boston Marathon. I despise it.
Oh, really? Why don't you like it?
It's very elitist.
Mm-hmm. That's fair, yeah.
There's a lot of people who show up who, no shame on people who are time qualifying. Mm-hmm. Love you lots. But, there's a lot of people who really let it go to their heads, big time, and just are very out of their way rude to people who are charity runners or are not don't feel like they qualified in that person's brain to be there. So there's just a lot of elitism that I've not found at any other race that I've ever run.
I could see how that would happen. I mean, I was sort of, I don't know, I was on some kind of Facebook doom scroll, and some content about the Boston Marathon came up, and I was looking at the comments, and it was people were having this raging argument in the comments about whether or not it's like cheating to run as a charity runner. And I was shocked because I was like,
I don't think these people realize how hard it is to, like, as the person who's doing their second ever like charity fundraiser to run a marathon right now, that's what I'm doing in Berlin.
Yeah.
It's hard. Like the first time I charity fundraised, I was like, this is so much harder than running faster.
Well, also,
this is so much harder.
It's such an objectively good thing. Like, how could you possibly have a problem with people raising a lot of money and awareness for
a charity,
for these really excellent causes? Like,
the people who show up and who are charity runners are also the kindest human beings you will ever meet in your life, and they're just so happy to raise money for whatever organization they're working for, and just so excited to be there.
Yeah.
And it's just like, don't rain on the parade. We really don't need to.
And charity running is such like, so I did watch the Boston Marathon documentary after I qualified, because I was like,
I need to know the history.
And I found out that the Boston Marathon has like this really cool history of charity running, starting with Kyriakides, which is like part of its legacy. So it's this Greek, the very first charity runner was this Greek guy who was raising awareness for essentially like the devastating poverty in Greece at the time. And he won. Really? And he was kind of like the first ever charity runner for the Boston Marathon. You should totally fact check that, because that's my memory from the documentary. But
I may or may not put some facts on the bottom of the screen here.
Yeah.
Depending if I can find them or not.
Including how you spell Kyriakides. I don't know how to do that. But anyway.
Yeah, that would be the big deciding factor if I can find it or not, because I have dyslexia. So.
But the funny thing about these like elitist people that you're talking about is they clearly aren't aware of this like really powerful legacy of charity running for the Boston Marathon specifically.
Well, also, I think they don't realize that there are actually people who time qualify who also do charity bibs, or actually pick charity bibs over having an elite, like a faster bib.
Yeah.
So that way they can like raise money for a cause. Even though they're a fast runner, their passion for raising money for a cause that they're passionate about is higher than their desire to just like run fast to run fast. You know.
Well, there's like this. I feel like maybe there's this false assumption that like, oh, people would only charity run if they can't qualify, which is
that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
And it's just so unfortunate. I mean, like I said, I've run Chicago and I've run New York too, and that energy just isn't there at those two races.
Yeah,
it's just not there.
Yeah, they maybe are a little bit more democratized.
Yeah, it's just more welcoming to people who are not top of the crop, you know, like cream of the crop when it comes to like how fast they can run.
Yeah.
But I encourage you to go have your own experience there. Don't let my personal thoughts and feelings. I've also realized recently too that I've always been the person who's like, why can't we all just get along, guys? And I forayed into trail running recently, and I found more of those people.
Right.
Who are just like, why can't we just all be friends, dudes? And I'm like, these are my people.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
I'm wearing like ultras and like wide. I'm living my best hippie life over here.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. You've fully assimilated into the trail running culture.
The only thing I'm missing is a running vest. I don't have like a backpack or a vest or anything.
Oh, you got to get one of those.
I know. I used one a while ago and I just don't really like them. But like, I feel like I could fall. I feel like if I find one that fits well, I could be fine.
That's what I have to do. So like I said, I did a lot of trail running in California when I was there.
Yeah.
And I would go for these there was a 13-mile trail loop that I would do, which you definitely needed the running vest for, because like,
hydration wise,
I'm
sure there was nowhere you could get water anywhere.
It was hot.
Yeah.
Especially in the summertime.
Yeah.
So I discovered that you really need the hydration vest. I have one it's men's, because the proportions on the women's vests are often off for me, because like I'm very small chested.
Well, you have kind of like a square frame.
Like, and I'm a kind of a rectangle.
Yeah.
And so like women's stuff tends to be very much like this. So anyway, I have a men's hydration vest, which is the right proportions, but even the extra small is just way too big, so I have to cinch it way down. But it does the work. It does the job. So
I think I'm probably gonna go men's too, because I just have very square shoulders and very big rib cage.
Yeah.
Like for my body size, like I think I'm like a 38A or 39A.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, yeah, I have a very wide rib cage.
Okay.
But like I'm very square too.
Yeah.
And like this shirt is also a men's. I usually end up getting the men's, like either small or extra small, depending on the sizing.
Yeah.
When I run a race too.
Yeah.
Just because I don't like my body's not shaped like this.
Right. Yeah.
It's just like
I have the same problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, hydration vest is key. Yeah. So I haven't really done like capital T trail races, but I have done some half marathons. There's this company, Vacation Races, that does half marathons, like not in national parks, but like right outside them.
Yeah.
I've done a few of those, and those can be like half on road, half on trail, and those are super fun because you camp out. That's and fun. You do the race, and then everybody else is also like camping out
with you.
Yeah, and it's a little bit of like a festival kind of vibe.
That's kind of fun. I had thought about doing one of those at some point too.
It was easier. Yeah, it was easier on the West Coast because a lot of them are on the West Coast.
I feel like most of them are in like Arizona or like New Mexico or like California or something like that.
Yeah.
Which has honestly been the main deterrent. Because if there was one that was like in Massachusetts, like I'd be like, oh yeah, let's just go do it. I can drive there.
Right.
Whereas like flying 8 to 9 hours, man, it's a little bit further away.
Yeah, when I lived out there, I could drive. So I did, there's a Zion at night. I did Yosemite. And then I lived up in Washington for a couple of years. So I did the Mount Rainier race as well.
That's fun.
Yeah.
We'll have to get you out trail running. We just started a group of people who've been trail running together the last couple of weeks.
Oh, yeah, I'd be totally down. Yeah, that would be great.
We had like 6 people last week.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's very exciting.
Yeah.
So, well, I'll let you know when we're running it this week. So if you want to join us, you can.
Please do.
But yeah, so I think what we should do now is, because we have a good background on your history, we kind of went off on a few tangents, which is great.
Okay.
Let's talk about being queer in the running community, just because more recently than not, I feel like it's something that has been talked about. I think, honestly, one of the biggest pioneers of this is Nikki Hiltz.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Definitely Nikki Hiltz, who is a transgender human being. They, them pronouns, I think in the 5K? Do they run the 5K? Is that their specialty?
Their specialty is actually the 1500.
The 1500, okay.
But they just won a whole bunch of stuff. I think they won an 800.
Wild records being set out here.
Yeah, they're really on a roll right now.
Yeah, so Nikki has been one of the people who has, I feel like the first in the track and field / running scene, first like openly transgender, like transitioned person who went from like she, her pronouns and clearly like a female orientation to a transgender person, like in the whole, like that this is who they are, and in a very public way. And also probably the first person I would say who has reliably nailed into commentators about using their correct pronouns and actually gotten pretty far with it, which is fantastic. Because if you watch most of the track meets that they're at now, it's all they, them pronouns for the most part, unless you get one of those weird old men who's like 70 who has no concept for any of this and honestly probably isn't even thinking about it and doing it on purpose, but it's just like, you know, the same person who walks up to my dog is like, how old is he? I'm like, she's 5.
Right. Kind of
where it's like, it's not necessary, hopefully not necessarily a malicious thing, but just like a generational thing,
right,
which eventually we'll kind of get out of. But it has been more of a topic of conversation recently. And I know that you say you identify as non-binary, which is awesome because that's one of the categories that has more recently been added into running events as well, too. Have you like always known you're non-binary? And you can say, if I ask you a question that's too much, you can say, I don't want to answer that, that's fine, and I'll just cut it out.
Oh, no. Yeah, happy to answer that.
Yeah.
So I've been out as gay for a very long time at this point. I have a wife, like that
it's a known entity at this point.
Yeah. So I came out, Oh gosh, in a series of comings out, as people often do, but like,
as I say, that sounds semi-typical at least.
But like, I came out to to my friends and very publicly in college. I didn't come out as non-binary or even realize that I was non-binary until like maybe 4-ish years ago.
Oh, okay.
So I was playing in a lesbian softball league in Seattle, which is one of those things that would only exist in Seattle. And
this seems like the biggest piece of gay propaganda in the entire world. It's like a lesbian softball league in Seattle.
It was amazing.
Were you guys all like maybe wearing like Birkenstocks potentially half the time, and maybe all driving Subarus?
There were a lot of Subarus involved, and I was on one team called the Vampire Bats, but the second team I was on was called the Dykes on Spikes.
That's a really good name for a team. That's a great team name.
I'm not very good at softball. I do not have the softball build at all, but I had a great time.
I don't either, but I want to be on Dykes on Spikes.
The Dykes on Spikes was... love you guys. Anyway, but the very first but beautiful, welcoming community, and by lesbian softball league, what I mostly mean is actually it was like a women's plus softball league, and just most of us happened to be queer in some way. It wasn't like lesbians only. And a whole rainbow of gender identities as well. But the very first practice that I went to, we were standing in a circle introducing ourselves, and name and pronouns. And I was just like, I'm Colette, and I use they, them, and it just kind of slipped out. And it was the very first time I'd ever done that, and I was like, oh my God, like that actually feels really good. And I think it was just being in a space where that was so normalized and accepted and not a big deal at all. Like I was maybe the third or fourth they, them to introduce themselves in that circle, that it just finally just like came out. And now looking back, it's kind of funny because, so I went through a high femme phase in like late high school, college, but as a little kid, I was such an obviously trans kid. Like you look at pictures of me and it's like boys' clothes, like I had short hair for a really long time. I was so obviously trans, basically, for so much of my early life. And then, like I said, kind of had my high femme phase is what I call it, and then eventually kind of circled back to where I am now, which is just very gender fluid in terms of like how I feel and how I express myself. So anyway, that was when I first realized I was non-binary, and then it was like a whole process to like start getting people to use the right pronouns for me, and like coming out as non-binary and trans to friends and family and people, and even now, like I'm publicly out as non-binary, but most people see me and they clock me as a woman. And so, unlike being gay, where all I have to say is my wife, and then
everyone's like, oh, okay, this is the super lady.
Conversation is over. I often have to remind people several times, they, them, so it's kind of like this interesting thing where I feel like I'm constantly coming out as a non-binary person, which is kind of interesting.
I will say I can identify with that in a couple of different ways. First off, like I mentioned, my best friend is non-binary. And when I met them, they didn't identify as non-binary.
Right.
And so it's been a transition for me, and I find myself screwing it up all the time. Using he, him pronouns instead of they, them pronouns.
Right.
But I always recently I've been getting pretty good. So love you, Jeff. It is challenging to like get that correctly, but also I kind of identify with the coming out thing over and over again too, because like I told you, I identify as demisexual, which no one knows what that is.
Yeah.
No one has any clue what that is. And essentially, anyone who's watching, that just means that you have to have a very strong emotional connection to unlock any sexual feelings. Like, I never watch porn. I don't really have, like, any of these feelings for, like, a lot of sexual things unless I have that specific person. And then the whole gate is open. And then you better watch out.
Yeah.
So, but it's something that I assume that every time I mention it to someone, they're going to have no idea what it is.
Right.
Like, because it's just so, like, just non-educated, and it's just something that no one talks about.
Yeah.
And, like, as you know, there are a lot of identities within, like, the sexual and gender spectrum and rainbow of things that you can identify with. And you can have multiple different identities, and you should, because gender and sexuality are two different things.
Yeah.
But it's definitely frustrating sometimes,
Yeah.
where you just want to be like, yeah, I'm gay. Sometimes I just say I'm queer. I'm like, I'm queer. And it saves me from having a conversation sometimes.
Right.
Which is peanuts compared to, like, you, who has I feel like much more consequential identities to be dealing with, because the demisexual thing doesn't identify my pronouns or anything.
Right.
It just, like, identifies if you're in a very specific situation with me, how things are going to play out. But
but it's also a key part of who you are.
Yeah.
And I feel like, it ties into this idea that most of us deal with in the queer community of invisible identities, right? And it's like, it's just a different set of challenges dealing with these invisible identities where, it maybe doesn't super impact day-to-day interactions with people, but it's a key part of who you are. And if people don't know that or recognize it, then you don't really feel seen truly in, like, who you are as a person.
Yeah, it's something too that you're living every day, all day. So like, in your soul, like, you're like, I identify as they, them, like, I, like, whatever, I'm demisexual. Like, it's just a known fact in your brain, and something that I feel like, because it's a known fact in my brain and I'm living it 24/7, doesn't everyone else know that this is, like, something that I feel like it should be just like a giant sign above my head?
Yeah.
And when you walk up to me, it should just say, like, she, her, demisexual, Juliana, here we go, runner.
Yeah.
And that should just be a giant, like, neon flashing sign over my head.
Yeah.
And then when people don't see the giant neon flashing sign in my head, I'm like, oh wait, no, that's just, it's not something I actually go around and announce everywhere all the time, or, like, wear on my shirt, or, like, something like that. But it just, I feel like it's something where in your head you're like, I feel like everyone should know this. And
maybe being demisexual is even more invisibilizing than being trans, in that, like, at least when I have a name tag, I can put my pronouns on it, right? Whereas, like, is there a version? Not really.
Well, that's a sexual orientation, so it doesn't. You can be transgender and demisexual at the same time. So
right.
It's one of those things where it's kind of a choose your own adventure style thing, where you can be attracted to whoever you want, but the demisexual thing just like shows how that attraction is shown, more or less.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just in the way that, like, people are attracted, like lesbian, gay, like, just along those same lines. But yeah, it's something that you can't really, like, you put it on a name tag, no one knows what that is. So, like, even our little flag that we have, no one knows. I mean, I feel bad for the people who are like two-spirited or things like that, where it's like they don't necessarily identify as trans, but they identify as, like, two-spirited, or they identify as one of the like allosexual, where, like, literally no one knows what that means.
Yeah.
Like, I'm at least kind of, like, a little bit above, like, the very bottom of no one knowing what this flag or this word means.
Sure.
But yeah, it definitely it can get frustrating sometimes, for sure.
Yeah, I bet.
But I mean, luckily for me, that's not something I have to, like. It's not in my day-to-day. I don't have people, like, walking up to me soliciting sex, like, every day for the most part.
I hope not. I hope not.
That'd be weird. Unless that was my job for some reason, which, like, it's a real job. Like, sex work is a real work,
Yeah.
But, like, that's not the life I choose to live for myself. That's not my calling.
Yeah.
Unless that was my job, I would be really worried if that
was
reality.
Especially in Falmouth.
Yeah, that'd be real weird, because it'd probably just be a lot of old people.
I was going to say, a lot of retirees just walking up to you randomly and soliciting sex.
It'd be really interesting. But like I say, that's not something I have to live day to day. But, like, your gender identity is something that, whether you, like, clock it or not, you do have to realize. Like, the number of times you fill out a form to say, like female, male, or, like, someone just walks up to you and is like, hey, how you doing, miss?
Yeah.
And or like, oh, isn't she beautiful? It's like, okay, so we gendered that for no reason.
Well, I love I don't know if you've seen the Tig Notaro bit about
Oh, I don't
this.
know if I've seen this one.
I don't mind being called sir, and it happens a lot when I'm like a little bit more mask.
Maybe like wearing a hat or something.
If I'm wearing a hat, if I'm in my hoodie, sometimes I wear like baggy jeans, whatever. I don't actually care. But one funny thing to do is like, so Tig Notaro has this bit of like going into a gas station and the guy behind the counter is saying, "Oh, how are you doing, sir?" And she goes, "Pretty good, ma'am." But yeah, people make assumptions all the time. And what's funny with me is that like I will get wildly misgendered in either direction depending on the day. One thing that happens a lot is, often when I'm traveling, I'm dressing more masculinely just because I'm comfortable and wearing baggy clothes and a hat.
I mean, that's like literally everyone. Everyone does that.
Yeah. And
I also I don't identify as trans or male, but like I've definitely been misgendered and called the guy like when I'm walking through I think a lot of it too. I have a very square jawline too. So if you like see me from like here down and I'm wearing like sweatpants and like a very like gender neutral outfit, and with like the square frame and everything, I can definitely present as a man. And
I honestly get a little bit of gender euphoria from that. But it gets a little awkward in TSA because, so I haven't had top surgery. I'm just very naturally small chested. And you go through the little scanner thing, right? And those have a setting for men and for women because basically,
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, the little like scanner thing where you do this. They have the ability to get a lot more information than they do, but for privacy, they say, okay, man or woman, and then they sort of like, the people looking at the little screen get this kind of cartoon image, right? And for me, what will happen roughly half the time is, but what that means is as you walk in, they immediately have to make an assumption about your gender. And they'll assume that I'm a man, and then they'll get on their little screen like little like warning signs around my chest. And then the male attendant will pat me down, and there will be this little like, ooh, and I'll be like, yep, sorry.
I have boobs. They're not big, but they're there.
They're there. That's why you thought I had, I don't know, something.
I was packing up there,
Yeah.
That's definitely interesting.
Misgendering. What a fun time.
It is interesting to think about, too, just like how gendered our world is. Like, forget like baby showers and things like that, where like clearly gender is on display. It's part of the facade. Like, those are just, if I ever have children, which I do not want to have children, notoriously. And babysitting for my friends recently has reconfirmed that this is not the life for me. But like I would never have a baby shower. I just couldn't do it. Like one like that where I like I would just feel so wrong identifying the baby's gender like in a super public way like that. Just again because I'm the person who's like, why can't we all be friends, guys? Why can't we just let people express themselves?
Sure.
That would bother me. But like even just like you mentioned like TSA the airport, they just have to gender people because that's the way
the way the machine works.
Whenever they built that machine back in like originally probably in like 1950 or 1960 or something like that, they're like, oh, how are we going to tell if these people have stuff on them, they're hiding anything? It's like, well, we have to account for that the women have boobs. It's so like we have to make a man and a lady, and that's it. That's the end. And it's just like, okay.
And it's a lot worse for trans women who are going through, and so I'm sort of lucky in that sense. But it is still, it kind of reminds you of how like gendered our world is.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's really crazy. But getting back to running too.
Yeah, sure.
So recently, a lot of races have started adding in a non-binary category to their races. The Cape Cod Marathon now has a non-binary category, which is very exciting. I'm trying to push for us to get non-binary prize money too.
Oh, nice.
So I think that there should be the same amount of prize money for the non-binary people as the male and female identifying peoples. So
for sure,
mostly modeling that off of like what the New York Road Runners have done. They've kind of, I would say, in the larger road running space, been the pioneers recently of just like having an open non-binary category. and they pay the same prize money out to the non-binary people as they do like the open. The elites are different.
Right.
The challenge is right now when it comes to like larger marathons, Cape Cod Marathon is not included in this because we're a smaller marathon, but the people who are technically elites are governed by the greater like running, the USTCF, I think, potentially, or whatever the greater like larger running community is, and they have identified that you have to like go in as a male or a female runner. That's why Nikki Hiltz competes with the women, because of that. The pro runners have to do that. But if you're not a pro runner and the race offers that, you can just kind of do whatever you want, which is great. And I know you said that you compete in the women's category.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that, because that's definitely, on paper, seems to go against what you would want to do.
Yeah.
Because obviously you've kind of put in a solid effort getting people to identify you correctly.
Yeah, yeah.
And we would like that to continue.
Yeah.
But let's talk about why do you choose to compete in the women's category specifically, other than the fact that some of these races just don't have a non-binary category because it's not really well spread out, I feel like, at this point.
Yeah.
It's not super accessible, but let's just talk about that.
Yeah, so kind of a two-part answer to that question. So the Seattle Marathon, which I did twice, had a non-binary category.
Nice.
And the times tended to, they tended to be closer to the men's times. And since I was female assigned at birth, my times are closer to the women's times. And so with races that have a competitive non-binary category, I tend to be less competitive in that category than the non-binary folks who are assigned male at birth.
Which makes sense. I mean, like, we both know that testosterone plays a big difference in like body recovery and muscles and stuff like that.
Sure, yeah.
And I mean, you don't have to answer this question, but like, I don't know if you're taking any kind of like medications for anything or not.
No, yeah.
Yeah, so that would put you automatically, that puts you at a disadvantage compared to people who are male assigned at birth, who have that naturally occurring in their bodies.
Yeah.
It's a challenge.
At the same time, like, one of the, I don't know, maybe this is kind of a silly thing to say as an amateur runner. This isn't my job or anything, right? But one of the things that like holds me back a little bit from considering something like surgery or HRT is like, well, that means that I would have to rethink how I approach running, which is, you know, again, it's just something I do for fun. But it is a consideration. So the fact that there are non-binary categories is amazing, both in being able to like run in a way that's aligned with your gender identity, but also having options as somebody who maybe is a little bit further along the road of a medical transition. The other reason why I run in the women's category is just that there aren't enough races with non-binary categories yet.
Yeah, I can agree with that 100%.
And so it's just not always an option.
And like sometimes I feel like this is going to be a deep cut for only myself, but you're like me at a trampoline meet when I was in high school, meaning that I was the only one in my category.
Yeah.
It was me competing against myself, because trampoline, as many of you probably have guessed, not a super like high volume sport.
Right.
In Massachusetts. You're probably like, Juliana, is that a real sport? Yes, it's in the Olympics.
Yeah.
But I was usually the only one in my age group and on my level. So that was kind of just like, okay, do I want to like drop down a level so I can be with other people and actually compete against them? Or do I want to just do the Just Juliana show and no one else? Yeah. And like, I can win, but it doesn't really it feels empty.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's the third thing, is like, okay, so not enough races have a non-binary category, and then
like, how many people are even going to enter?
In some races, the non-binary category isn't very deep. So it just I think, broadly speaking, it's very new, and I'm excited to see how it develops and changes in like the next 5 years. And maybe I'll get to a point where I want to run in the non-binary divisions. But for now, I'm running with the women just because it tends to be a little bit more predictable, both in like what races I can do in that division, and what the field will be like, and what the times are going to be. Because like I said, in the like races that have a pretty deep non-binary category, the times can actually be quite fast, and then in other races, you know, I would be like way ahead of anybody else, and that doesn't feel like much of an accomplishment either.
Yeah, I mean, I will say all the races. So my best friend Jeff, who lives in Louisville, has competed in the non-binary category for some other like smaller races, like 5Ks, 10Ks, and things like that, and won. Jeff, I love you so much. You don't run very fast, like 10 to 11 minute mile.
Yeah.
Where it's like, if you showed up to a 5K, even in Falmouth, and you ran that fast, you would be like at the back half of the field.
Yeah.
Because the people who are coming in first are like somewhere, you know, like if you're a Gardner kid here, like 4.5 minutes to like 6.5-ish minute miles in that frame of reference. Just because those are technically like competitive times, you know? But if you show up and there's just you and like 3 other people, and you just happen to be the fastest out of those 3 other people, then that's great, you know?
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, like, you can show up and then it's just like all like male assigned at birth people who are like elite level in that non-binary category, which is completely valid as well. Both of these realities are valid. But then you're at the way back instead of, and you're running, even if you're running 6.5 minute miles, you're at the way back.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's just not a middle zone.
Yeah.
Like between the races that Jeff has run and like what you're talking about and like what I've seen.
Yeah.
It's either everyone is like really far on one side of this time spectrum or on the complete opposite side. And there's no like there's no middle of the pack runners who are running in the non-binary category.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm excited to see again how this develops. I think a lot of this is just a function of the fact that having non-binary categories in races is a really new thing.
Yeah.
In the same way that like having a women's division in races is pretty new. I mean, like the first woman to run the Boston Marathon was
53 years ago, maybe 54.
Yeah, it was not that long ago.
Yeah.
And now if you look at like the women's division of the Boston Marathon, it's like
it's thick, it's deep,
insane, you know. It's so competitive. So I think it will be interesting to see. I think this is just very new, and we're still sort of like,
it's really only been like a couple of years, like pretty much like post-pandemic. That's kind of been the majority of the movement in this direction.
So I'm excited to see how that kind of changes and develops.
It'd be interesting to see if it becomes, hopefully it does, becomes like more of a bigger movement within other sports as well too, and like having non-binary teams for say like football or like soccer or whatever or something like that.
Yeah, well, going back to the softball team that I was on, I mean,
Dykes on Spikes.
Dykes on Spikes, yeah. So we have, you know, so that was like, so one thing that I think would also be really powerful is like having a non-binary category is great, and I also think it's good to have a slightly more expansive definition of what a women's category is.
Yeah, for sure.
And so like in my softball league, we had cis women, we had non-binary people, we had trans women, we had, you know, like I said, a huge range of gender identities in this, you know, women's softball league, and it was great, and it made it such a welcoming place. And so I think that's why it's so inspiring to see Nikki Hiltz running, because they're like, I'm running as part of like the women's category in these races, and I'm trans and non-binary, and sort of like expanding, you know.
I like what you're describing too, because that is kind of the queer experience right there.
Yeah.
Is that like you're just essentially your softball team is like the queer community. You show up and people are like, that's why I like to use queer sometimes too, because, or like some people use gay in the same way, but in my head gay is for men who like men, and just because I know too many people who like, there's too many logistics around like the different terminologies and stuff like that, and I'm like, for me, my personal like umbrella term is queer.
Sure.
Or LGBTQI.
Yeah.
But that is the queer community right there.
Yeah.
It's like, even if you show up to say like an event for lesbian women,
right,
you're going to have a full spectrum of people. And generally speaking, this, I can't speak for the entire queer community, and I'm sure you know if you talk to people, because there's always a few toxic people in every community that you're part of.
Yeah.
But the queer community is very welcoming to everyone of every identity, and I think that's why people, like you mentioned in your story, you feel empowered to express your authentic self,
right,
because you see other people doing that.
Yeah.
And you feel like in that space, at least, being different isn't bad.
Yeah.
And being different is welcomed, and being different is okay, and being different is great, because being different is you. And if we were all the same, it would be boring.
Yeah.
That'd be silly. We don't need that.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's great to show up to a space and feel like, you know, I can just be myself.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I love about the running community here, is that it's like very welcoming, in my experience at least.
We try, you know.
And I have never felt self-conscious in like being who I am in this running community, which is pretty special.
That's some good feedback, because I try very hard to, like, I know I'm not like the only person in town who's like here, but I feel like I'm one of the ambassadors of the Falmouth Running Club.
Yeah.
And like, I just like, I grew up in a family where, and still, they very much like to stick to norms. And if you're anything outside of that, like that range of what they deem as normal, because everyone's normal is different. I mean, you go to a different country, what they define as normal there is completely crazy to us, and vice versa, you know.
Yeah.
So their definition of normal is very cut and narrow.
Right.
And if you're anywhere out of it, you get shunned. And I just grew up like feeling absolute crap about myself, and just and like I'm an oddball human being, but not in the way that like it's like offensive or mean or anything. It's not like I'm out here murdering people, as far as everyone else knows.
Should I be worried?
Maybe.
We are in a dark room alone.
I mean, this is on camera. This might not be the best way for me to murder you.
Sure. Okay. I love that we're having this conversation.
Yeah. Planned physical evidence. I feel like that would probably be the absolute worst. I don't like listening to true crime, because I'm like a comedy, like light and fluffy gal. Like that's kind of my jam when I'm partaking in anything like extracurricular, you know?
Yeah.
Just because the world is dark enough already.
Yeah.
So like I don't even listen to true crime podcasts, because they scare me so much, and I'm just like,
I'm the same. I can't do it. Yeah.
Yeah. If I'm gonna listen to something on my own time, it's gonna be something that's enjoyable.
Yep.
So, like, because I can partake in horror any day of the week in the real world.
Right.
So,
yeah.
I think
agree.
I think we're good.
Yeah.
But it's just I as soon as I was out of like that sphere, and like the more time I stay out of that little like very concentrated like family unit, I realized like how expansive the world is too, and how many different identities there are. And my best friend Jeff, who is the non-binary human being as well, actually helped me like really like open my mind up to like all these different gender identities and things like that, and just like meeting people, going out into the world, like seeing more of the world. And I feel like everyone should just be accepted as they are, as long as you're not murdering people. As long as you
keep going back to this.
Maybe I did today. Who knows? This is for me to know. You never find out, hopefully. But it's just, I feel like as long as you're not being mean, you should just be accepted as who you are.
Yeah.
And largely, people react to things negatively because it's different. Right. Not because it's wrong, not because it's bad, but because it's not what they either expected or know.
Yeah.
And I like to give myself space, and like I've created some like verbiage around that too, and like really gone through therapy and things like that, and just to like make sure that when I'm trying, and I'm not perfect in any capacity, like trying to approach people, it's in a neutral way that gives me space. Like sometimes if someone does something that's a little bit shocking to me, I'll say out loud, I was like, wow, that was a decision that they made.
Yeah.
Which is just a neutral thing to say, which essentially just gives my brain like physical time to process, did I like that or did I not like that, instead of being like, that's terrible, because it was shocking.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can be a good shocking, and sometimes it actually is just like, well, they made a choice.
Yep.
And that's it.
Yep. Yeah. Same. Yeah.
It's just kind of like, yep. Yeah. Or else sometimes if something like happens, I'll be like, that's wild.
Yeah. So a good example of this is So running alone, as somebody who looks like a woman is always a fascinating adventure, right? And the other day,
interesting time.
So I live in East Falmouth, and there are all those roads like Davisville, and then what's the one that's one over from Davisville?
It's not. Oh gosh, I don't know.
And not Acapesket, but in the other direction.
Yeah, I can't remember. I know exactly what you're talking about.
I was running down it. It's a pretty big road, right?
Yeah,
and it's one of those Cape Cod roads that, like, I think the speed limit is probably 35, but people go 50.
Yeah.
And middle of the day, and this big pickup truck with a big American flag on the back, which I don't know whether or not the American flag was related to how they treated me.
I am rolling my eyes though.
But they pulled up alongside me, and they were doing the thing where they were driving slowly as I was running, and they were driving next to me, and I was like, cool. I
wanted to have a confrontation with random men in a truck today. That's exactly why I went on a run. How did you not know that?
Yeah. But, it's like one of those, like, am I about to get kidnapped situations where you never love it when somebody is driving, whatever, 6 miles per hour as you're running.
Yeah, that's not safe.
But I was like, it's probably fine. It's the middle of the day. It's bright out. There are all these houses. I could always go up to somebody's front door and knock and be like, hey, I feel kind of unsafe.
Yeah.
But what it ended up becoming very entertaining very quickly because, as I mentioned before, people like to go really fast on this road.
Yeah.
So pretty soon another car came up behind the pickup truck.
Oh, so they all behind, like,
and it's a double line road, so there's no passing. And they were like doing the like swerving thing, like, hello, like, what are you doing? Okay. Like, come on, why are you driving 6 miles per hour, 7 miles per hour? That wasn't even. I was just in my whole cold weather running get up.
I'm always surprised at the number of people who like the weird cat calls. Like, I feel like I don't usually get cat calls until I'm wearing. It's a day where I'm like clearly wearing the most mismatched outfit in the entire world.
Right.
I look like a marshmallow human being.
It's like
and they're like,
what
hey,
is
I'm like, what are you looking for? Like, this is me at my ugliest.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sweating. I'm like it's just not. I look distressed. My face is red. Like, I don't know what here you found appealing.
The only sign that maybe made them clock me as a woman was the fact that I was wearing leggings. Anyway, and then soon enough another car pulled up behind, and then at that point the pickup truck started going more like 20 miles per hour, but it was still not going
like full speed.
Yeah. And I just quickly went from being scared to entertained as I was watching these other two cars be like, what are you doing?
People are crazy. There's some wild human beings who live out there.
Yeah. So anyway, I feel like if I've ever encountered like, I don't know, weird behavior as a runner in Falmouth, it's more along those lines than like the actual human beings that I run with.
Yeah. I mean, definitely like the people in Falmouth, especially part of the running club, are very like respectful, I would say.
Yeah.
Of everyone else too.
Yeah.
Like, I've never been to a running club event where I felt like there's a weird energy or anything like that.
Yeah.
Or like even like any of the races or anything around here, or like even the races like in Plymouth or like further out on the Cape and stuff like that too. We have like a good community here.
Yeah.
And I think like especially the Falmouth running community recently too, we've definitely like started to expand the programs that are being offered and like the different varieties of things, so that way everyone feels like there's something they can partake in, which is great. And I don't know, we're also always open to suggestions and stuff too. Yeah. So like I said, we just started like doing like a semi-organized trail run the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Because it's been me and Ben running together for like 9 months now.
Yeah.
And Ben has been like, you should invite people, because I'm the social one out of the two of us.
Yeah.
Ben and I talk for like the first 30 to 60 minutes of us running, and then I start monologuing.
Yeah.
That's just kind of how it goes.
I kind of do that too. I'm very chatty when I'm running. And then sometimes I'm always testing the waters, like, okay, does this person want to chat, or do they just want to run in silence? And then after a certain point in time, if I'm just monologuing, I'm like, okay, yep, they don't want to talk. Yeah. I should shut up now. And then I usually don't, but
I was gonna say, I just keep talking anyway. My favorite is when Ben will be like, Juliana, you've been talking the whole time and you didn't breathe at all that whole like minute. I'm like, it's fun for me. I love to talk.
Yeah.
Let's practice talking.
Yeah, I call it at track. I call it the yap lap when we're doing like
a cool down or something,
recovery or a cool down or something. Yeah, that's the yap lap.
Yeah, that is definitely a yap lap for sure.
But here, I started doing track with Dan and Maggie in September 2023. I guess. No, wait. 2023.
Yeah, that'd be like a year and a half, 2 years.
And then I just got sucked right in.
That's kind of how it works too.
Yeah.
I mean, like when I moved down here, I did the Friday Night 5, and like I just immediately met people who were like, "Oh, you should come do this with us." I was like, "Okay."
Yep. And it's just like.
Yep, you just suck right in. We had 2 people who just moved into town the last couple of weeks who had just sucked right up the last couple of weeks, and Aubrey, he's a mushroom farmer who just moved into town.
Oh, nice.
Already got him doing 2 trail runs and one Falmouth running club thing.
Yep.
So it's like, that's right.
Yep.
You spend more than 5 minutes with me, I will get you doing something.
Yeah.
Whether it's volunteering at the Cape Cod Marathon or running one of the road races around here.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just, it brings that sense of community, too.
Yeah.
Because, like, being an adult, it's hard to make friends.
Oh, absolutely. That's like a huge part of it for me. It's just the community. And it's definitely, it's especially tight as a community, like the running community here.
Yeah.
Because
for sure.
When I was in Seattle, I did run as part of like a running group there as well. I didn't do track workouts or anything, but I would go to like these like Wednesday night just like group runs. But it would be like 40 or 50 people.
You get lost in the sauce sometimes.
So you get kind of lost in the sauce.
Yeah.
More recently, when I've visited out there, because my wife actually still lives out there, I found a different group, Club Northwest, that does track workouts. It's a little bit more of a tight community. But here, I think just because
small town,
there aren't that many people. Like it's a really tight group, which is nice. And then Dan has been training me for. He trained me for my marathon in October, and he's been training me for my marathon in a couple weeks. And he and Maggie are like very invested, which is really great and sweet. So I really don't feel lost in the sauce, and that like. I've got Dan following me on Strava and like emailing me like, "What's your plan for getting your long run in this weekend?"
You're like, oh. Sometimes that personal attention is like you're like, oh, good, and sometimes you're like, leave me alone.
No, for me it's good. It's like good, because I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know.
Yeah, same. I'm still like I'm just doing my thing, you know.
Yeah, I was
like,
out
here on these streets.
like for example, it's like, oh, well, I don't know. I was gonna do a 20-mile run on the Friday before the Seagull 6, and Dan was like, what?
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
The community here is like, I feel like it's just big enough. Like there's enough people where you don't feel like you're really, really missing out on too much.
Yeah.
Because you're never going to get everything out of every community you're part of. Like there's just no perfect community out there.
Yeah.
But everyone is like you said, very invested in everyone else here. Like even when we did the longest long run like a week and a half ago, it ended up being me and Ian and one other woman who was there.
Yeah.
And then we had Kathy and Bob, her husband, crewing us.
Yeah.
And Bob was like out on the streets making sure we were okay, pulling over on the side of the road, like refueling us, rehydrating us, being like, do you guys need anything? Does anyone need like Vaseline, KT tape? Like, do you need a Band-Aid?
Yeah.
And just like really just like, even though there were only really like 3 of us out there, he had his eyes on us.
See, I wanted to do that, but it was the day before Seagull 6.
Yeah, I think just sometimes that happens. It kind of just depends on the way the calendar shakes itself out.
Sure, yeah.
It's
well, if you do another one, I mean,
we'll do one in the fall too.
It is great to do a supported long run.
Yeah. Plus, I think if we had like a larger group of people who were saying like, yeah, I want to do it on this day, I'm sure we could coordinate it.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be a huge deal.
Well, probably there will be a lot of people training for either the Cape Cod Half or the Cape Cod Full Marathon. And
we'll have, so we do a longest long run in the fall too.
Yeah. I think I knew that actually.
Yeah. That usually gets a little bit of a bigger turnout just because a lot of the local people are running Cape Cod, the half or the full.
Yeah.
So they'll kind of make their way. Plus, it's still like a hangover of a few of the summer people sticking around at that point.
Yeah.
The summer people haven't come back to the Cape quite yet right now.
Yeah.
So it's definitely, that is a little bit more well attended.
Yeah.
But case in point, like Bob was on top of his shit, and he was like really like making sure we were good.
Yeah.
Like, that's roaming those streets in his truck, making sure we were okay. Had the cooler in the back with all the the cool.
Bob is out in the streets.
Bob's out on the streets.
We love it.
There it is.
Thank you, Bob.
Bob did a great job. Bob and Kathy are wonderful.
Yeah.
But it's just nice to have that community resource to pull from.
Totally, yeah.
And like Kathy's still running marathons. You know Kathy.
Yeah.
And like Bob has run multiple marathons too, so they know exactly what you need. And like we come back to the office and there's like pickle juice set out, there's bacon, there's
pickle juice. Wow.
Yeah, everything.
That's how you know he's a real one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had the pickle juice shots in the cooler for us too.
Wow.
So if we wanted a chilled pickle juice shot,
that's awesome.
We were like ready to go.
Yeah.
Ready to rock it and roll it.
Salt.
Yeah. Really throw it back.
Yeah.
Sometimes that salt saves you. When I ran the New York City Marathon, I was feeling off like halfway through, and I was like, I also, my body's really good at getting rid of fluids, like retaining it not as good.
Right.
So my salt intake has to be kind of higher.
Yeah.
Especially like I got an emergency colon surgery like about almost 2 years ago now.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
Yeah, it was interesting. I'll show you the scar later. It's fun.
Whoa.
I have a really cool scar.
Yeah.
Was not a cool experience, but it's fine.
Yeah.
But like I've definitely been like having to take on more and more salt with my training. And they had like regular salt packets that they were handing out like halfway through the race, one of the aid stations. So I just like threw back 4 salt packets all at once. I was like, yep, that's good. And that saved me. I was like, that's great.
Do you have to go really hard with the electrolytes?
I usually like when I make my bottles, I'll do double on the electrolyte like fluid. Like if you're gonna do like if I'm gonna mix like 1 packet and then like put that in there, I'll do 2.
Yeah.
Or I'll do like one with carbohydrates, and then I'll do just like one of the carb-free ones because I don't want to like fully like overwhelm my system with too much sugar and like give myself like a headache almost.
Yeah. But you like it salty like the sea.
Yeah. For Ben and I were doing a long run, and we used the same fuel because I got a few samples from this like new company. I think it's called like HYN or something. But they do specifically like high salt fluid mixes. And he drank it, and he was like, "This is like salt water." And I drank it. I was like, "This is not salty enough." Like, the salt for me is just like a necessary thing, which is great because I love salt and my blood pressure runs low, so it's fine.
Are you a very salty sweater?
I don't know, actually. I've never done like a sweat test, but like when it's hot out, I come back fully crusted over. So possibly.
Yeah.
Possibly. It's more the fluid loss than anything.
Yeah.
Just because I'm missing part of my colon too, and that's where your fluid gets reabsorbed into your body. So just kind of like,
that makes sense.
I need the salt to kind of like,
that's really interesting.
Keep it inside.
Yeah.
Weird shit that happens in my body, It's a fun time.
Yeah.
It's a fun time.
Yeah. I'm not a very heavy sweater, but part of my running journey was discovering that like, you need to be drinking electrolytes, not just water. Yeah. Especially on these long runs, especially on hot long runs. And
you can feel really freaking off and like delusional.
Yeah.
You don't get enough electrolytes in your system.
Yeah. And my mom is like one of those hardcore kind of old-fashioned runners that doesn't take anything with her. She doesn't bring water with her or gels or anything. Which, like, for a short run, like, I don't either.
Yeah, you can, if you're trained well enough, you can probably go for like an hour to an hour and a half without really needing anything. As long as you're, like, eating and drinking okay around your running.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we went on she was visiting me in Seattle, and we went on a 14-miler together. And it was the summertime. And I had my hydration vest, and I was like, I'll bring enough water for both of us.
Yeah.
And I kept offering her water like throughout. And she was like, no, I don't need that. No, I don't need that. And then on our way back, we got to like mile 12, and she was like, I feel like I'm going to pass out. And I was like,
you need some water, my friend.
You need some water and some electrolytes, my friend.
Like,
stopped, got her some water and electrolytes. She felt better, but
it's wild.
Yeah, it makes a big difference.
Yeah, it definitely does. I feel like we've fallen off the train a little bit topic-wise, but that's okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not mad about it.
Being a queer, non-binary runner is cool, and in Falmouth, it's not a big deal.
Which is what it should be, honestly.
Yeah. Like I really, I mean, I also think it helped maybe, before we started recording, we talked about how like academics are sort of migrants, right? And it helped.
Yeah.
I got a job here, and I arrived here, and I was already out as queer and non-binary. And and it sometimes helps being able to like start fresh in a new place because you don't have people's previous kind of knowledge of you influencing how they see you now.
That's a nice time.
Yeah, so it was a nice way to sort of, because I came out as non-binary while I was living in Seattle, but when I got here, I was already like they, them, and people didn't know me any other way.
Yeah, they don't have to like either erase or replace something they thought about you previously.
Other than like, I think sometimes people, again, see me and they assume, you know, that I'm a woman, and then there's like a correction to do.
Hopefully you catch that soon enough where it doesn't like ingrain in their brains for something, but you can never guarantee anything.
Yeah. And, you know, with being non-binary, like I said, it's a constant coming out. But with being queer, like, it's like not an issue. Like,
I feel like I don't know, this could just be me and my like knowledge and like knowing a few amount of queer people, but I feel like I have a pretty good like queer radar.
Yeah.
For the most part, you definitely show up on my radar.
Good.
Like big time. Like,
I'm glad.
Not in a bad way, but just like there are certain people who I walk into a room and I'm like, yes, fellow soul, hello. Yes.
Yeah.
I see you over there.
Yep. I am very happy to have shown up on your gaydar. I work pretty hard towards that.
To just like sending out a good signal, you know?
Yeah, I don't know what it is about the signal, because it doesn't seem to matter how I dress or anything.
Other queer people can pick up on you right away.
Yeah. I think it's just a way of being and a way of carrying yourself. I don't know.
I think it's an energy, but also like a slight. I feel like people who are queer just have and also like female identifying either at birth or currently.
Yeah.
Just have a little bit more of a radar on themselves, like looking around, like looking and taking in the environment, because you never know who you're going to encounter and where that could put you in a dangerous situation.
Yeah.
And just kind of being a little bit more like hyper aware of things, but also a lot of queer people at the same time being completely oblivious to a lot of things and just like being just like doing your thing and being aware of your environment, but doing other things, and you're like, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
This makes sense.
Yeah.
And then someone comes out to you and you're like, I knew that.
Yeah. The one thing I wish is that we had a slightly bigger queer community here. There is one.
It's a lot of older people though.
And I'm somewhat involved in Glow.
I don't know what is Glow. I don't even know what that is. I know we have Cape Cod Pride.
Glow is sort of related to Cape Cod Pride. It's a community organization. I was trying to remember what the letters stand for, because it is an acronym. But it's like the
gays level women
queer community organization in Woods Hole. Anyway, so there is all that to say. There is a queer community, and like there is going to be a Woods Hole Pride, but it's very small. And
is that a new thing? Do they have Woods Hole Pride?
Woods Hole Pride is a new thing.
Okay, I was gonna say I don't remember, because I'm someone who I've actually never been to a Pride festival.
What?
Again, well, yeah, half of it is. This has been a journey for me, Colette.
Okay.
Of me being like my most authentic self. I'd say the last like 2 to 3 years, I've really been like living my best life. You know.
Yeah.
More and more every day. My main goal for my life is every day to be a little bit more authentically myself.
Yeah.
And that can be in a big way, a small way, whatever it is. Just be a little bit more Juliana every day.
Mm-hmm. I love that for you.
Yeah, and I mean, it's pushing me in the direction of just being more comfortable in my own skin. And confidence is sexy, and that's just kind of the long and the short of it. But like I again grew up in a family where it's very like straight and narrow, and if you didn't fit on like this very specific path, like you were considered like a freak and weird, and like I would never like I didn't even have like I'm very deep into Harry Potter, as you kind of already told.
Same.
But yeah, I didn't even have any Harry Potter shirts or anything, or I didn't have robes. I didn't have because my family was like, we don't dress up like characters.
Oh wow!
And I was like, okay, yeah.
Yeah, for religious reasons or just
honestly, social norms. Social norms. Like my dad is very religious, but it's not even that. It's just like they hate to be the family at a restaurant that like is making a little bit too much noise, which is very comically hilarious because I have the loudest voice in the entire world. And you better bet everyone can hear my conversation whether I like it or not.
Yeah.
I have a really loud voice.
Yeah.
That just resonates.
Yeah.
But it's like they just don't want to tip the social norm scale in any direction. They want to be at exactly even.
Okay.
And if like you're wearing a shirt that's a little bit too nerdy, or if you're a little bit too queer, like it's just like no. So and there's just not been, like, timing wise, the last like 3-ish years, I've just not found a Pride festival that's like fallen in line with like something I can go to too. Yeah. Like Providence has their whole thing that they do, but it's such a production to get out to Providence, and like it's so expensive when they have Pride down there, because like the whole world comes to Providence for Pride Festival. So it's just like the prices for everything is jacked up. Like you can't even find parking anywhere. Yeah. So it's just, I'm like, do I really want to do that? I don't know.
Well, I haven't been involved in the planning, but there is and the reason why is because the planning meetings are on Monday nights, and I've told the powers that be I have a very important commitment on Monday nights, which is dance,
running,
and tempo workouts.
Yeah, running.
But there will be a Woods Hole Pride.
Okay.
And I know some folks who are working very hard to make that happen. So
I'll definitely go to that then.
Yeah.
Is it going to be in during Pride Month in June? Or
yes.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. I don't really have any big plans in June, so I will plan on being there. So that's close enough too, where like, if I wanted to, I could run down there too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. If I can't find parking.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've been to, I lived in the Bay Area, so I've been to like San Francisco Pride, which is like another like
big Pride festival.
Big production. Pretty fun.
Yeah.
I can't claim this, but I had a friend who was one of the dykes on bikes.
Oh, okay. That's fun.
Which is, pretty cool. It's pretty cool that I know one of the dykes on bikes. And
I feel like the queer community has this whole, like, it's like any like subgenre that you dive into. Like, there's a whole lore and like different like hierarchy levels, and like all these people who are like within it. I mean, even just myself as a really avid like Drag Race fan, it's funny too to talk to people. I'll make like Drag Race references where I'll be like, "Boo," from like, what's the drag queen's name? I can't remember her name now. I see her face in my head. But like just like deep things, or I'll be like, "You ugly bitch," and other people will be like, "I don't know what you're talking about, Julia." My best friend Jeff will be like, "I got you." I'm like,
these little like signals.
That's Interior Paris Van Michaels for you right there.
My wife still hasn't seen Drag Race
at all,
and I'm like, oh.
See, I as someone who does like art stuff, and I'm sure you can identify with this too. The queens specifically who are on Drag Race, and also many other drag queens, the level of artistry these people are, and crazy. Athleticism.
It's amazing, especially.
They're going to back handsprings and heels in drag.
The current seasons are so polished, and like those drag queens can do anything with their bodies. It's wild.
It's crazy. Yeah. The flexibility, the ability to like do anything on heels.
No, they have to be like triple threats now.
Yeah. Sewing, performing, comedy. Like these are multifaceted artists and athletes all at the same time.
Yeah.
Just try and wear a wig and a dress and fake boobs and do anything.
Yeah.
Never mind doing a back handspring on a stage in 9-inch heels.
It's wild.
It's crazy.
But I feel like it should be required viewing for
any queer human being.
Yeah.
Or really anyone. I think it's just a good like even just like the message at the end that RuPaul always says, if you can't love yourself, how the hell are you going to love somebody else?
Yeah.
It's just good advice.
I would love to yeah, any human being needs to watch.
Do you want to do drag? I want to do drag.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I actually did a N2O in drag Dance Your PhD video.
Oh, okay.
So I had my so I started a dance and science communication initiative in grad school with a friend of mine, and we produced a series of shows and videos communicating science through dance. Anyway, my research is about nitrous oxide, which is a greenhouse gas, shortened to N2O. And in my Dance Your PhD video, I had the dancers dress up as faux queens, so cisgendered women performing as drag queens. And then I was an andro queen. They were the different atoms in the nitrous oxide molecule, and I was the mass spectrometer. and my name was Miss Spectrometer.
See, I would like to do drag king performances personally. I have actually a few songs lined up that I'd like to do. I just got to work on the staging and makeup.
Okay, what would the songs be?
So my first one, I would like to, so there's a remix of The Sound of Silence. So Disturbed, which is, they do a version of The Sound of Silence, but there's a remix version of that like really is giving zombie. So I'd like to do a zombie drag king performance for that.
Cool.
That's going to be my first thing that I'd like to do.
Okay, yeah, I like that. What about the other song you have in mind?
I have some other like female drag performance. I'm trying to think of the other guys drag king ones I would like to do, but that's kind of like my first place I would like to start because I have a very fleshed out like idea of what I would like to do staging and costume wise.
I would love to see a drag king show. I've been to see a drag show in Provincetown, but it was like traditional, drag queen show.
Yeah.
I don't know if that is that a thing around here, like a drag king show?
There's not really like, I think there's some maybe in like Plymouth or something. There's some drag kings, and I know in Rhode Island in Providence there are a few drag kings down there. I've seen some shows where there are drag kings included in them, like it's a larger cast of queens and kings, and there's like 1 or 2 kings in the lineup. It's not very common at all. Yeah, it's it's also just like very even more discriminated against than like other drag formats, just because it's so just niche.
Yeah,
it's so niche.
Well, it's hard to get the lesbians out of bed.
Yeah.
But if you hear of any drag king shows, I would love to go because they're so much fun.
I'm advocating for also that we do like an adult talent show night here.
Nice, yeah.
Where we just like all of us, our friends, and like everyone in the community gets together and we just go and this could even be like a series of events depending on the venues that are needed. I was having this conversation with I don't know if you met Nicole Davies yet, but she was on the podcast. She was our first guest we had. But we were talking about like empowering adults to do things that they either like hidden talents that they have or like artistic or endeavors that they wanted to take on. Because she was talking about, because her former life, which is related to what she currently does, is being a Olympic synchronized skating athlete.
Cool.
And
that's
so
very cool.
We were talking about, she's like, I'd like to do another program. I was like, that'd be great. We could all come out and watch you do your program if you want. And I was like, we should all do something that's like, we have like a little goal and like something that you've always wanted to do, just never really had the time or the energy to do, and you do it.
Yeah. I feel like for me, that's just these local races. That's my talent show these days.
That counts too, If you're like, I would like to just race at this, and we can all just, luckily for you, most of us are probably going to be there anyway. So I'm happy to cheer for you.
I'm like I'm a one hobby person these days, and it's running.
I feel like it'd be interesting to see you dance, though. Like if you want to do some like revive a dance routine or have a song that you've always wanted to do a routine to but never got the opportunity.
I did do a solo, almost a year ago, so last June, my high school dance studio was doing a gala with a bunch of alumni.
Oh, yeah.
And they invited me back to come and perform a solo. So I did a solo about my grandmother who died of COVID. And
oh, wow.
It was like a very modern dancey kind of thing, all about grief and a lot of like rolling around on the floor. And that one was an interesting kind of gender bender performance because I performed in black slacks and a black blazer.
Yeah.
And nothing else, and I didn't button the blazer, so it was like boobs out.
Yeah.
Intentionally, like desexualize the nipple, but also like it felt very
so weird to me,
gender affirming to me to just dance the way men dance, which is like
shirtless half the time, especially if you're doing like contemporary dance, very shirtless.
Yeah. So that was very cool and very empowering.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would do that in front of all my running friends here in Falmouth.
You don't have to.
The nice thing about that show is like I actually don't know that many people back in Vermont other than like my old dance teacher, so it was like I don't care, like I'm not going to see these people again anytime soon.
That's also the performer side of you too, where you're like you can perform for an anonymous group of 10,000 people and you're like it's fine, and then you're in front of like your parents and you're like no.
And everybody here knows me as a runner, so I think it'd be kind of funny, but
And we have a lot of like multi-talented people too.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like I'll throw myself in the ring. Case in point, I don't think anyone really realized I could sing until the Cape Cod Marathon, because I sang the national anthem this year at the Cape Cod Marathon because Tasha was supposed to sing both days, and she thought she was only singing one day. And so Jack was like, I can play the anthem. I was like, I got it, Jack. We good. He's like, what, you sing? I was like, yeah. And like even like the other day, the Seagull 6, so it's like, I'll just do it. Yeah. It's fine.
Surprise.
It's like, woo.
Yeah.
People don't realize because it's just like, I don't know, it's not my job anymore.
Yeah.
It's like,
again, these invisible identities.
Yeah. And then the invisible identities. But I feel like everyone has that though. Everyone has some kind of like either past, especially like, I don't know, how old are you, Colette? You want to say? You don't have to.
I'm
say.
30.
Okay.
Yep.
So I'm 31. So we're in the same exact age range pretty much. But like, we've all lived a life at this point. Like we had a childhood. We've had like a 20s, whatever that was.
That's a perfect description of my 20s. Whatever that was.
That thing that happened that put us here, you know?
Yeah.
I was thinking about that the other day too, because there's some people that I interacted with when I moved down here originally, and I was kind of just like in a weird funk when I moved up here, and just I was like, yeah, at some point I'm gonna have to apologize to them for just being a freaking weirdo when I first met them, like because I just don't know what was going on when I was 25.
I think about who I was when I started grad school and how much how much of a mess I was.
Yeah.
One of the perks of having this migrant academic lifestyle is you get to pick up and move, and then you don't have to like deal with all the people who knew you when you were 24 and just a mess on wheels and like trying to figure out how to be an adult. And
Hot Mess Express. Ticket for one, please.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. All I can say is thank goodness I discovered running.
Yes, I mean I can identify with that too. It's just
because I was on a
train to nowhere.
A train to somewhere that I didn't want to be.
Yeah. I feel like we all kind of go through a period like that. Whether it's happened to us already, or it's going to happen to us in the future, or it's going to happen to us again potentially, where we get lost and we come back and we find things.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like the natural ebb and flow of life.
Yeah.
But it's definitely, whatever the 20s were, I don't really know.
Yeah.
It kind of is what it is.
Yeah.
But I don't know. But okay. Do we have anything else we wanted to talk about? I feel like we covered quite a bit.
I think we covered a lot of ground.
I feel like this is a good conversation though. Like I'm not like bored with it. I feel like people are gonna identify with it.
Yeah.
I think it'll be good.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I'm happy. I had a great time. I think we kind of covered all the bases.
Yeah. Well, we'll do one more thing before we wrap it up, which I forgot to tell you that we were going to do, but it's really not a big deal.
Okay.
Because you should be able to answer the one question that I have for you.
Okay.
But we're going to do, what shoe do you choose to use? Which is just a little segment that we do at the end of the show, where you tell me either or and your favorite shoe ever, your favorite shoe currently, your favorite shoe you're running in, or just a shoe that lives in infamy in your brain for whatever reason it may be. So we'll start with let's start with your favorite shoe you're wearing currently.
Okay.
And then if you have any other shoes you'd like to mention, we can go from there. So what shoe do you choose to use, Colette?
Well, like any running nerd, I have a rotation, so it really depends on the run.
I think you're like, besides Ben, probably like my first person to actually have like a shoe rotation. Most people are like, I wear this shoe, and then they're like trying to list off a shoe to me, and I'm like, oh yeah, that one. They're like, and then I know more about their shoes than they do, and I'm like, this is where we realize that Juliana really is too deep into shoes.
So my current rotation that I'm a big fan of. So if you don't mind me listing several,
I would love you to list as many shoes as possible, please, and I will flash them all up on the screen as she says them.
Okay, great. Okay,
yeah. So people, because most people who watch this show, I realize don't have the repertoire of shoe knowledge, where like I'm assuming that the shoes you're going to mention to me, I'm going to be able to picture in my head very easily.
Yep.
But the audience probably will not. So
yeah,
there'll be pictures on the screen for you. Don't worry. Go for it, Colette.
Yeah. So I'll preface this by saying I've accumulated these over time and buy all these fancy shoes all at once. Like I'm not rich.
Your girl here has 33 pairs of shoes on her rack at home.
That makes me feel less bad.
10 in the closet waiting.
Okay, so easy, easy run / recovery, but also sometimes long run shoe is the New Balance Fuel Cell Rebel. Super light, super bouncy.
Love the Rebel.
Love it for a long run. Not great for picking up the pace is my one qualm about them.
How many miles you got on those bad boys? Approximately. It doesn't have to be an accurate.
I think I have like 180 miles on them.
They're probably dead.
Already?
Yeah, that shoe doesn't last very long. I
blew
through it in like 80 miles.
Are you kidding me?
No.
Oh, that's so sad.
That's probably why you're having a hard time picking it up. Because that shoe is actually decently responsive for the most part, but it definitely goes flat fast. Because the foam is so light, it just compresses.
Yeah, so these days if I'm trying to do a long run where I'm picking up the pace in the middle or a tempo run, I have the Puma Nitro DV8-2s.
I love this. Is anyone who's... the DV8-2 is my favorite running shoe of all time.
Love these things.
I've like I mentioned, I've worn a lot of different shoes.
Yeah.
I'm actually taking a pair of DV8-2s to the road marathon I'm running.
Oh, nice.
And I'll tell you what, as someone who also likes to run trails, it is the ultimate road to trail shoe. The Puma grip on that thing is no joke, and it's got like 3mm lugs on the bottom.
Yeah, it's like, awesome.
Like but Ben, who we mentioned already, ran a 50-mile race up in the White Mountains in those shoes.
Yeah.
I had no issues.
Yeah. So that's my so I have done some trail running in those. But if I want to do a tempo run or I'm doing a long run where I want to pick up the pace in the middle, that's my go-to. I haven't tried the DV8-3s, but I know that
they don't have as big of a lug on the bottom, but they definitely...
I know they've changed them a little bit, but I would be excited to try. And then for races, I'm a basic bitch. So I have Alpha Flies, but I have the Alpha Fly 2s.
You bought them like used, correct?
Not the 3s. I didn't get them used. I just got them new on eBay.
Okay.
Because I heard on a running podcast that now that the 3s are out, you can get the 2s cheaply on eBay, which is true.
Yeah.
And I don't have $280 to spend on running shoes.
Oh, absolutely freaking not. No.
So I got my first pair of Alpha Fly 2s for my marathon in October. And then I've been using those for races and then some of my tempo runs and some of my speed work since then. So they've sort of flattened out.
Yeah, they looked pretty compressed when I saw them the other day.
Yeah, they're pretty compressed, but they're still fine for like a tempo run.
Yeah, you could probably still take them out for like shorter runs. I wouldn't go for a marathon PR in them or anything.
No, so then for my marathon in 2 weeks, I got another pair of Alpha Fly 2s from eBay.
There you go.
And then the last shoe in the rotation is I have a pair of Salomon,
do you have the Sensei Ride, maybe the Speed Cross?
No, the Sense Ride. I have a pair of Salomon Sense Rides. That I love for trail running.
I really like the Salomon Sensei Ride. It's just for me, it doesn't have enough cushion in the forefoot.
Okay, fair, yeah.
I run fully on my toes.
Yeah, you said that.
Yeah.
So you're like way up like this, so you run through.
Yeah. So I need either something, I've discovered with trail running specifically, I either need like a nice thick stack of cushion in the front or a rock plate, which the rock plate is kind of my preference, just because otherwise my foot ends up like doing like this weird thing around it, and I just like, I kind of melt over a rock, and it's not great.
That's fair. I like the Salomons because, and I like the Sense Ride specifically because they are so responsive and like not very thick.
Yeah.
And that's always been my preference, especially for like everyday kind of running shoes. Like that's why I like the Fuel Cells as well, is that they're like, it's not a huge fat, it's very bouncy, but it's not a huge fat like thing under your foot.
Yeah, which is kind of nice for sure.
And I know Hokas are like all the rage, but I've never been able to get into Hokas because it feels like I've got tires on my feet.
Anyone who's watched this podcast before knows that Juliana does not like Hokas.
Okay, well, good. Because I know that can be blasphemy in some circles, but...
I'm the one creating blasphemy here, saying that I'm not a Hoka fan.
I can't do that. I can't do it. And then, of course, all the, like, Bama sorority girls got really into Hokas, and now they're so expensive I couldn't afford them anyway, but...
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, with shoes, you just got to find what works for you.
Yeah.
That's really, like, the long and the short of it. Like, I've really forayed into, like, ultra shoes recently.
Yeah.
Because I land on the front of my foot, like, the drop doesn't really mean anything to me. But they have this nice wide toe box, because I have a really wide, like, toe box area.
Yeah.
So it's just, for me, I've, like, really been living my best, like, wide toe box life recently. It's been a nice time.
Yeah.
But it is definitely, like, you have to figure out what works for you.
Yeah. The Fuel Cells have a pretty wide...
I know, that's why I like them.
Toe box, too. I actually have very narrow feet, which is why I like the Nikes.
Yeah, so, I'm trying to like rack through my head like what shoe like you would really enjoy, because there are a lot of like lower profile shoes that have a really good cushion in the front that would be more fitted for a narrow foot. I would say if you like the Rebel, honestly, the Noosa Tri 16 from Asics is kind of the narrower version of the Rebel.
Okay.
I can see if send me your shoe size later. I'll see if I can find you a used pair for like a good shape. Clearly have like barely any miles or like not even any miles on them at all.
Yeah.
But are like significantly discounted because people are trying to just like clear out their closets or something like that.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm in the market for.
Yeah.
But honestly, what I really want is to find a pair of the DV82s somewhere, because I did my whole.
I just ordered a new pair on eBay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're like $100.
Oh really?
Mm-hmm. I'll send you a link later.
Okay, that's honestly what I would get, because I did like so many of my training runs for my first marathon training cycle since moving here on the DV82s, and I still bust them out sometimes. But at this point, they've easily got 400 miles on them, if not more. So.
Yeah, you probably. I get like, for me, if I get up over 200 miles in a shoe, like that's really like that shoe is very durable. Like I just ran in the Ultra Tourin, and I've got about 20 miles in them, and they're already starting to shred through.
Really?
Yeah, I'm destructive. This is why we had the second portion of Runner called Shoe Eating Monster, which is episodes of I Make at Home that are me testing out the durability of shoes, because I would say like one of my miles is equal to 3 miles from a normal person.
Right. Yeah.
But I just like I can rip through shoes like
because you're putting so much on the front of the shoe.
Yeah, it's just like whatever the exact like path of force that my body takes combined with the shoe in the ground, I can just rip shoes apart like no one's business, and it's just kind of wild.
That actually makes sense. Yeah. I tend to be not very hard on shoes.
It always makes me laugh when I see people like my friend Daniel, who has also been on this show too. I say he runs like a fairy princess, because he has his shoes that he ran his half marathon in the fall that he's still running in that look like they were never touched. Whereas like I know, because I have a pair of the same exact shoes he's running in.
Yeah.
And I literally blew through them in like 3 runs.
Yeah.
They were destroyed. Like they were shredded to bits and pieces.
I tend to be not very hard on my shoes. But I'm also not very good at like retiring shoes when they're done. So
I'm getting that vibe.
I have some like the DV82s I've had for way too long. Like the fuel cells, it makes me sad that they're probably already almost toast.
Sounds like they probably have lived the majority.
My first pair of Alpha Flies are pretty squished.
Are you someone who likes to have like emotional connections to your shoe? I have like emotional connections to
and
my
I get
shoes.
Superstitious, which is why I got. Yes. In October, I ran a 3:15 marathon. My previous PR was 3:42,
which is crazy that you cut a whole half hour pretty much off of your marathon.
So now, the reason why I have this skimpy running outfit with the buns and the crop top
is that because you ran your PR in that?
I ran my PR marathon in that.
And your PR half, correct?
And then my PR half.
Yeah.
I came in third at the Cherry Blossom half out of
bananas.
900 women.
Wow.
That was a few weeks ago. Second at the Seagull 6, which is way too competitive for being such a small race. And so now this just has to be my racing.
Yeah, this is going to be it,
I can't do anything else because I'm going to jinx it.
Yeah, I'm the same way too. Where I wear the same pair of shorts for a lot of my races too, or I'm wearing like the same shoes or whatever, and I have such a hard time getting rid of shoes, which is not good because again, I have a lot of shoes and I should get rid of them more often than I do.
Yeah, but it's like these are the lucky shoes.
Like these have some emotional connection. I mean, case in point, I actually have a tattoo on my stomach that's from the shoe from my first marathon that I ever ran.
Oh, nice. Wait, what kind of shoe is it?
It's the Asics Gel Cumulus. I think it was the 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, maybe 17th. I'd have to go back and look, honestly, and check the dates.
Yeah.
But I just, again, emotional connections to shoes. I was like, this is what got me through here.
Yeah. One of my very first pairs of running shoes, back in the days of running with my mom in the woods, were one of the old Asics Gel. Like, it was like whatever Asics was doing.
With like the Kayano, maybe that's their like longest running line right now is the Kayano.
I think it was those.
The Kayano and the Nimbus are like, the Nimbus is like right behind the Kayano, and then the Cumulus is like right behind the Nimbus.
Yeah.
The Kayano's on like version 32 or something right now.
And I still remember those shoes. They were like.
Did they have like a bunch of plastic bits and they had like the gel on the outside maybe? Yeah.
They did. And it was kind of funny now thinking back on it. It's funny thinking about like all the running I was doing essentially was either trail running, or I grew up in rural Vermont. All the roads are dirt roads. So it was like running on these gravelly dirt roads.
You're running in a road shoe.
in these road shoes. Like,
Yeah.
what was I doing? But, you know, I was 13. Like, who cares?
When I started running in high school, me and my mom did the Couch to 5K program, and I had a used pair of $9 sneakers from Payless is what I started running in.
Yeah.
So, you know, really prime shoe technology at that point. It's probably just a really worn down piece of foam, honestly.
Yeah. I'm proud of myself because, you know, when we were talking about the running journey, I got back into running during COVID. And my first pair of running shoes in that phase was literally a pair of boys' sneakers that I had gotten from Target. Not even running shoes, just
like straight up boys sneakers.
And now I'm like, oh my God, it is amazing that I didn't do more damage to my joints by running in these things that were just not even meant to be run in.
Yeah, I don't know how I like got through that Couch to 5K program without being injured, to be honest. Like, not a clue in the world at all. Because I know I was running like 9-ish minute miles too, because I remember my original thing was like, I run for 3 songs, which is about 9 minutes, and that's 1 mile. Because that was how I was measuring things at that point, you know?
I think in my case, like, knock on wood, but I kind of, I'm not necessarily like naturally super fast in the world of fast people, but I think I just have like rubber joints. Like my mom and I both like.
Do you have like what?
No, it's the opposite. We're hypo. So our joints are naturally somewhat inflexible. We're actually like hypomobile instead of hypermobile.
Oh, so you're like the opposite of me.
And so it makes it, so for example, like my hip joint, the ball of the femur is really far in there. So there's less like mechanical range, right, which is terrible for dance.
Yeah.
But it means that the joint is actually very well protected.
Yes, that's the problem that I have because I have hypermobility and my ball and socket doesn't fit up quite rightly, and there's like a little bit extra space there.
So you have to do all this extra strength training to like,
And I have Ehlers-Danlos, so I have the really loose ligaments too,
right. So and you have to like really support your joints.
Right now, it's very tempting for me to like try and throw my leg above my head because I'm pretty sure I could probably do it.
Oh my God, please don't. I don't want you to get injured doing that cold. But yeah,
it's like, it's just, my problem, what I've had recently, I describe as spaghetti leg, where like I lose control of the leg because the muscles just kind of get tired and they give up.
Like,
I just start running and the leg's like, blah, 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 and I'm like, oh no, spaghetti leg.
My food analogy for my body is I say I have Go-Gurt arms because I'm like a classic runner. I don't do any upper body strength.
Oh, yes,
and my arms are like those old Go-Gurt tubes that you had as a kid.
They're just too like very like non-defined. Or you could kind of be like one of those like those windmen who
exactly.
Wind tunnel.
That's a good analogy for people who are like listening instead of watching. It's like the
one of those wind blowing tube people that they put outside like car dealerships and stuff.
Yeah,
I identify with that.
Yeah. So anyway, so shoes wise, it's really just like the less about injury prevention and more just like what feels good, what I like.
Yeah, I'll send you the link for the Puma DV8s later too.
Perfect.
I think
sounds great.
I think that'd be good. And I'm also going to start racking my brain for a pair of shoes that I think you would enjoy to replace the Rebels with.
Okay.
The Noosa Tri might be a good option.
Yeah.
I know that there are other shoes that I just need to look. I need to just like look at pictures of shoes. I'm a very visual person.
I mean, basically, if there was a Rebel that was just a little bit narrower, that would be like the ideal everyday trainer.
Asics Noosa Tri 16. That literally is like I put that one. I had been running the Rebel. And then I put that one on. I was like, this is the Rebel for our narrow-footed friends.
Yeah.
It literally felt almost exactly the same, except it was more narrow.
Okay.
I'll see if I can find a shoe for you later.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be good.
It's fun for me to like do like a little treasure hunt too, because I'm like, I have like my Poshmark and my Ricari and my eBay all set up to like buy shoes, which is very dangerous. Did I just buy more shoes the other day? Yes, I did.
Nice. Yeah. I know. I'm like getting to the point in my running career where I start to like sometimes get a little bit of prize money from races and
that's good shoe money.
It's shoe money.
Yeah.
That's what it's for.
I justify it with the fact that I'm making YouTube content about the shoes and the fact that like I buy shoes, usually secondhand shoes that have like a few miles on them. But I'm saving them, you know, and then I'm bringing them into my slaughterhouse where I really get the most out of them. We call it the Second Chance Shoe Society.
Yep, I love
it. Really
that.
is more of a slaughterhouse than it is anything else.
Second chance is a euphemism here.
Yeah, it's a second chance to be murdered by me. This is the murdering we were talking
back
about
to murder.
earlier. Yeah, this is. I wasn't murdering people earlier. I was murdering shoes earlier, though. We rounded out my highest mileage week I've ever done in my entire life this week. So.
Oh my God! Congratulations.
Yeah, I hit 78 miles this week.
78?
Yeah.
How did you do that?
Like a bunch of 10-mile days and then a 20-miler and then like a couple 9-milers thrown in there. I did like 10 and a half today.
Good job. That's awesome.
Yeah. I didn't even think I'd be able to get here and be alive and talking to people if I did that.
I'm amazed that you're alive and talking to people, actually.
Yeah. It's been a slow grind. It's also just like, getting back to like the community side of things real quick, it's just like the belief that you can do it. Like I've been training with Ben, who's running like approximately, give or take on the trails, like a 55 to 65 mile-ish race, because you know how trail races are, especially ones up in the mountains. It's not an exact distance. And just the fact that like I'm training for a 30-miler and he's been like, oh yeah, you could do that. Like just the lack of calling it crazy.
Right.
And the being like, yeah, you could do it. Just like being like, yeah. And just treating it like it's an everyday thing and be like, yeah, why not?
I mean, I
just try.
Yeah. I can relate a little bit less in terms of volume and more in terms of speed.
Yeah, see, my speed is very bad right now. Real bad.
Like I, for the longest time, wouldn't have been able to run a mile in less than 7 minutes. And then this like whole concept of like, oh yeah, running in the 6s for like, 10K or longer.
Yeah, for like a full like half marathon essentially, pretty much.
Like my half marathon I ran at, I think the average pace was like 6:53 or something.
That's pretty fast.
And it's just like, but it's just like getting over that mental barrier of like, actually it's no big deal.
Yeah.
Like I can do this.
Yeah, I found it very empowering to like, especially with the trail running side of things, especially when Ben and I are together, to not track my distance as much and just go out and like pay attention to how my body is feeling. And just like be present in the running itself and just be like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like not have an expectation for, I guess for you, how fast you can go, and for me, like how far I can go.
Yeah.
And just being like, well, I guess we're just going to go for a run. And like I'll come back and Ben will be tracking it on his phone and we'll check in how far we went and be like, he's like, oh, we ran 13 miles. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And I just walk away and I'm fine. And I'm just like, because we just went until we were tired.
Right.
And that was the end of it.
Yep.
And that was just kind of it.
Yeah. And I feel like with races, sometimes if I'm trying to like look at my watch too much, I'll be like, oh, I'm going too fast.
Yeah.
And if I'm not paying attention, I'm just like, okay, do I feel like especially for a longer distance, right? Like, do I feel like I'm past my lactate threshold, or do I feel like I'm just under it, and then adjusting accordingly?
Yeah.
And then often I end up running faster than I meant to, just because I'm like, this feels fine. And even though I was planning to like run at this pace, like this actually feels like my legs aren't burning really yet, and so this is okay.
Yeah, checking in with your body is really big.
Yeah.
And just being able to be like, oh, am I okay right now? Like, I mean, especially like in the trail running, I'm sure you can identify with this too. Like going uphill is a fully different pace than going downhill. And it's so variable to get like at the end of your run, you can get an overall average pace.
Right.
But like it's so variable.
Yeah.
And to like really zone into one specific moment really doesn't tell you what's going on at all, like on your watch. But if you can like pay attention to where your body is at, that's going to actually tell you what's going on and what's happening. And
completely, yeah.
Yeah, it's just, And again, a lot of it is too just other people validating you and being like, you got this.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the times what all people need, and like I can say this for myself too, is just someone to be like, yeah, you got it.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah.
I always say when Ben and I are together, I get the Ben, because he's collecting information and it's neither a bad nor a good thing. And I'm just like, I feel okay. He's like, okay.
Yeah. And you're like, okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
No big deal.
We took that information and it wasn't
no big deal.
Yeah, it wasn't a big deal. It's like, okay, great, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. It's just that, just like being like, yeah, you could do it. We got you.
Yeah.
You just need that one person to just be like, just believing you a little bit and just like reaffirm that what you're doing is possible.
And that's why it's so nice having like, I feel like this is turning into an ad for Dan and Maggie's coaching, but
go ahead, give it to them. Dan and Maggie are going to be on the podcast at some
having
point
Dan coach me has been awesome, because he's just like, yeah, I think you could do this. Like,
yeah. Because the person who's leading you, like Dan specifically, isn't going to tell you something like unrealistic.
Yeah.
But also isn't going to undersell you.
Right.
It's just he knows based off of like your numbers training wise and stuff and what he sees you doing that's possible.
Yeah. So he had me going up to 65 miles a week during this training block, which in a previous lifetime would have been unfathomable.
Yeah.
And it was fine. I don't know if I ever made it up to 65 or if I was like maybe maxed out at like 63 or something, but regardless, it was a lot of running.
Yeah.
At one point we pulled it back because my speed workouts were starting to like suffer just from too much volume.
Yeah, your girl over here isn't doing any speed workouts.
Yeah,
Let's just say that.
But anyway, yeah, it's kind of cool to just
to just like have people believing you and like just tell you like, yeah, you got this.
Yeah.
It's possible. Mm-hmm. It's possible. There are crazier things out there in the world too, especially if you dive more into like the ultra marathon scene. Then you really find the crazies.
Okay, so I loved the Barkley Marathon documentary. I've watched it like 3 times.
Is that the new one that just came out? I haven't seen. I saw one of the older ones, but there's one that I don't know if it was specifically called like the Barkley Marathon, but there's a newer like YouTube documentary that someone did very recently.
The one that I'm thinking of is from like 2018.
Okay, so yeah, that's the one I've seen then.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Barkley Marathon's the race that uses you.
Yeah. Which is a wild. I as someone who has really bad like dyslexia and map dyslexia too, there's no way I could orienteer through that. Like that is I completely like I can find joy in getting lost in the woods. I can find joy in like running and doing things like that. But there's no way that would be a complete torture chamber for me the entire time.
But it's so much fun to watch other people do it.
Yes, it's one of those things where you're watching a game show on TV essentially, and you don't want to be the one being slimed, but it's fun to watch the other person get slimed.
Exactly.
I don't want to do that, but it's fun to watch, you know?
Yep.
Yeah,
100%. People do definitely like much crazier things.
Yeah, than running a road marathon and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Or even like running a 30-mile trail race. It's like, yeah, there are crazier things like that. And am I kind of deep in the sauce now? Would I like to maybe do longer races? I don't know. Ask me after I finish the 30 miles. But knowing myself, probably yes.
When is your 30-miler again?
In like a month and a half.
Okay, and you're doing a marathon as like one of your long runs, right?
Yeah, the 26 Point True Marathon in Boston. It's the Saturday before Boston.
Oh, okay.
So I'm doing a road marathon because I'd signed up for the road marathon and I decided I was going to do the trail marathon because it fit in.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, it'll be a great supported long run.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing too. It's like I have aid stations, I have like cheerleaders and people.
Totally.
That's for the reason like every year my favorite long run that I do training for my fall marathon is the Falmouth Road Race Day because I'll get up early enough so I can fit in however many miles I need before the 7 miles to round it out however far I need to go. And then my last 7 miles are just like a party the entire way. And there's aid stations.
It's awesome.
People are cheering for me the whole time. I'm like, yeah, I'm finishing up 20 miles. That's right. Okay.
Yeah. I love that.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
It sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, plus there's water stops everywhere, too. I'm like, I barely had to bring anything with me.
Because that's one of my least favorite things about long runs is, like, having to carry stuff with you. Yeah. So more often than not, what I'll do is...
Did you plant things?
No. Well, sort of. I have a 5-mile loop around my house.
Oh, okay.
So I'll just do that, and I'll leave, like, my water bottle and, like, maybe some, like, fuel just out on my driveway. And
I feel like we got to get like lock boxes around Falmouth that like people can drop water bottles and fuel into.
And you get like the FRC like hands out like the special key to the lock
you get
boxes.
a special key from the running club. Like you can pay like $5 a year to have access to the lock boxes and get a key.
Yeah.
So that way you can drop water bottles in it and they're just at periodic spots around town. I'd probably put them away from where the bubblers are because the bubblers can also be their own kind of fuel stops in a way. Just like because they have hydration and stuff there, and usually there's like porta potties and stuff too. But like, I think this could be something we could. I don't know. I'll talk to Kathy about it. Yeah. It'd be a lot of fun. But okay, I feel like again we divulged from where we were talking about, but that's okay. So that was what shoe do you choose to use, a very elongated version. That's okay. We mentioned shoes. It's fine.
Yeah.
But
we talked about shoes.
Yeah. Shoes. Like, if you want more shoe content, you can head to some of the other videos on my YouTube channel. Like, there's plenty of other shoe content for you right there. Or some other creators that are out there, too. So, it is what it is. But thank you again, Colette, for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is fun.
Yeah, this is a nice time. Do you want to, like, let anyone know about anything you're involved with? I don't know if you want to give people your socials, or like your Strava, if you want people to follow you. You don't have to. But if there's something that you want to get out there, people can have any questions, comments, concerns.
I guess, I don't know what my Strava handle is. I think it's just Colette Kelly.
I have no idea what mine is too. I should probably look that up.
But yeah, people can follow me on Strava. I'm always looking for more running friends.
Yeah.
And the other half of my life and my actual job is that I'm an oceanographer at Hui. And just would encourage people to continue to stand up for science because
they need it right now.
We need it right now.
Yeah.
So
go support your local scientist or donate to
call your senators and tell them that we need to keep funding science in the U.S.
Yeah, it's very important. Very important.
Yeah, and go to the Stand Up for Science rallies when they have.
Oh, okay. Do you know if there's another one coming up anytime
soon? I don't know if there's another one coming up actually. Okay. But yeah.
Okay.
That's the one plug that I'll make.
Yeah, I think that's a great plug to make. Stand up for science. I definitely stand behind it. As someone who also has a science-based degree, yes. Science. It just makes me want to do Bill Nye the Science Guy, tectonic plates. That's one of those things that just if you grew up in the 90s, the early 2000s, late 90s,
it just sticks in your head.
You just know Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Yeah.
Bill Nye the Science Guy. Tectonic plates. It's just a thing that happened,
Yeah, that was some really good science communication, actually.
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah.
That and the Alton Brown cooking shows that he used to do, where he would explain how cooking worked, from a scientific level.
Yeah.
But make it really fun and accessible.
Pretty awesome.
Genius.
Yeah.
We love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
But okay, so if anyone would like to get in contact with me over here on Runna, you can hit us up on Instagram and TikTok at RunnaPod. And if you have any questions, queries, concerns, any information you'd like me to relay to Colette, any questions you might have for them, you can definitely email me at runnapod@gmail.com. And don't forget to like and subscribe, friends. I keep forgetting to mention that at the beginning of the episodes, but that's okay. Like and subscribe if you're on YouTube, and definitely subscribe if you are listening on your podcast platform of choice, because, it's nice to have people interacting. Send us an email. And by us, I mean me, because it's just me. I act like there's actually a team behind all of this, and there's the spirit of a team.
Yeah.
But the only one actually doing answering emails and stuff like that is me.
It's a royal we.
Yeah, I feel the support of the community, but the actual hands on the keyboard are me.
Yeah.
That's all good and well. But thank you again, Colette, for joining us.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And thank you guys all for watching/listening, and we'll see you on the next episode of Runna. Woo! That's the end.
Cool.
Yeah. Nice job.
That was fun.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Runna. This podcast is edited, hosted, and produced by me, Juliana Coughlin. Brought to you in part by the Falmouth Running Club and the Falmouth Community TV station. If you'd like to connect with us, you can find us on Instagram and on TikTok at RunnaPod. And you can send us an email at runnapod@gmail.com. And our original theme music was brought to you by the one and the only wonderful Jeffrey Hutton. And keep up the great work. I'm proud of you.